Federalist 10, written by James Madison, is one of many pieces of the Federalist versus Anti-Federalist debate. Due to the antipathy the Anti-Federalists had towards adopting the new Constitution, heads of the Federalists made it their duty to sway their opinions.
Anti-Federalists believed the Constitution would lead to a condensed Republican government that would abolish all rights given to the people by the state legislatures. In response to this fear, Madison wrote Federalist 10 to point out that in a Republican government the majority must rule, and in that sense, the majority must sacrifice their own selfish rights for those of the country.
He also proved that tyranny is just as possible under a republic as it is under a monarchy or, for that matter, state legislations. Madison fought strongly in this document that a remedy to this situation must be found in order to keep the natural rights of all, including any minority, included and protected.
Born March 16, 1751, James Madison would have never guessed he would become the father of the Constitution. He enrolled in Yale University and studied Latin, Greek, philosophy, and many more. He stayed at Yale longer in order to continue his studies with Reverend John Witherspoon. During this time period of his life, James Madison sensed an underlying issue beneath the war that would change the world.
Originally on the battlefield, he gave up his gun for a pen. Becoming increasingly influential, Madison eventually served as Orange County's representative in the Virginia Convention. Due to his popularity there, he went on to serve as one of the Virginia's delegates for the Constitutional Convention, where he proposed the Virginia Plan. After America won the Revolution, James Madison got to work.
He made proposals to amend the Articles of Confederation and added 10 of his own amendments to the Bill of Rights, which he composed as well. Since the Constitution wasn't unanimously popular, Madison created Federalist Papers in order to sway anti-Federalist minds. Federalist 10 was written as a way to defend the Republican government proposed by the Constitution and respond to the complaints that a federal government would be too large and unresponsive to govern all the people.
Written in the Federalist 10 paper, James Madison discussed and proved topics that we still see relevant today.
He states that the form of popular government, on the other hand, enables it to sacrifice its ruling passion or interest, both the public good and the rights of other citizens.
This quote is in favor of a central, citizen-driven government. Madison thinks that the rights and well-being of the people is best represented when they're the ones making decisions for themselves.
James Madison argues strongly in many of his papers that, and I quote, "The federal Constitution forms a happy combination in this respect, the great and aggregate interests being referred to the national and local and particular to the state legislatures."
In this quote, James Madison is explaining to the Anti-Federalists that the solution may not seem keen now, but it will have many advantages in the future. It will tie the nation as a whole rather than separate parts and states. He also assures the opposers that not all power will be taken from the states and that the Constitution is not a new set of standards, but instead a compromise in order to make both sides content.
Madison fought strongly for a centralized government that was balanced fairly and equally. He states that, and I quote, "In the extent and proper structure of the Union, therefore, we behold a Republican remedy for the diseases and most incident to Republican government."
Here, James Madison is talking about the idea of checks and balances. Breaking off the idea, he also talks about that a government with the proper structure, problems that have risen with others will be minuscule or non-existent. He believes that a strong Republican democracy will do just that. Without it, the intensive state legislators will continue to make more problems that only a whole union can avoid.
As seen today, this form of government is still in effect. It allows laws made by the representatives to be fair, and if not, then new leaders can be elected until they are. Civil virtue is promoted and the representatives give up their selfish interests for the good of the people in the country. Economic pursuit benefits the whole nation and allows the people to live well and guarantees rights and a voice in the political process.
I think that James Madison was one of the most important founding fathers because he, not only helped compose the Constitution, but two, helped it get passed by the states and made a promise to them that he ended up keeping, which I think is something that a lot of politicians nowadays struggle with. So I think people should look back and use examples of how he helps the people and use them today.
James Madison had a huge influence on the formation and growth of the United States. Without his Bill of Rights, the Constitution would have been rejected in many states. The nation would likely have fallen apart, and we would have had many more debates and revolts regarding the government. His impact on the United States was an important one, and the future of the country would be unknown without him.
James Madison was such an influential person. So much of his ideas and debates are still used today. Without him, we would have never created a Bill of Rights, a very controversial topic at that time that we would for sure be lost without. The first 10 are by far the most important, starting with freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, and petition. Without Madison's advances in our country's united stance, we would certainly be knee-deep in revolt and political parties against the Constitution. Because of this founding father, we were and are politically stable, with a few exceptions here and there. Nonetheless, he is just as significant as he was back then, and America thanks him.